This is Talks, where people speak to people about crafting brands and the power of storytelling.
Simon, thank you very much for joining us on Talks episode 2.
Well, brilliant.
So you're one of our first ones, and today we're going to talk a bit about the parallels between the aviation industry and the branding industry. We are at the moment in the middle of the Motor Aviation Conference and Expo, which we as Concept Stadium are very proud partners of and one of the founding members of that. And I must say, I really enjoyed a very good day of content, of networking, of fun in terms of meeting industry peers. And we were actually talking, and again, thank you for accepting our invitation. As marketers, we also play a fundamental role in this industry. And we were actually talking earlier on about why the industry is so loved. It is loved because it gives people an element of moments marketing. It gives them an element of vacation, family holidays, so on and so forth. When coming up with the brand name Universal Air, obviously one of the newest entrants in the Maltese market, uses Malta as a base for your obviously people carrier approach. What did you have in mind from a brand point of view?
I think it's always fun developing a brand, right? Because we were very lucky. We had literally a blank piece of paper to develop everything from the ethos to the graphics to the understanding what that brand meant. I think we wanted to not 100% be associated with just Malta. We wanted to be a kind of Mediterranean airline and allow us to be a more regional approach, and that kind of tucked into obviously the national carriers that Malta have and other nations. So really use that Mediterranean centre point, which Malta is, to broaden and allow us to be seen as a brand across the Mediterranean. Universal was something that we liked as soon as we heard it. I think it gave us a really broad opportunity to use that in very different ways. Obviously, it translates across a number of cultures, number of languages, which I think in the aviation industry is really important because especially when we're operating North Africa to Eastern Europe, to Central Europe and the Mediterranean, everybody has a very different culture, and language is just one part of that, and you've got to understand what that means. So the universal bit allowed us to really truly be a universal kind of approach to what we wanted to do. So hopefully, as we continue to grow the company and the brand, we can start playing on those kind of words that we've got. So really, it was one of those things we fell in love with very quickly.
Okay, so you enjoyed the branding session when it was a blank canvas.
It did, yeah. I loved it. I'd never done it before, which is, I think, the best part of setting up a new airline is all those things that you don't get to do, and it was really, really exciting to bring the other employees in as well, because a lot of them have never done it. So it was great to get everybody's views, because obviously the experiences they have across their previous jobs allows them to bring that in, and hopefully we've developed something that it's not just a visual brand. It actually means something and has a background to why it's there and how we can grow it.
I like what you said, that you were looking at having a brand name. So actually, before the brand identity, the actual name, in terms of looking at multiple markets.
Yes.
So, and the cardinal rule of marketing is actually knowing your audience, really and truly. How important is it in the aviation industry, in the value proposition of Universal Air, to speak the language of your audience? And are you speaking to a particular audience which resonates with your brand?
I think yes and no is probably the easiest answer, because obviously depending on the reach, you have a varied client base. So we use Ibiza as a really good example. Obviously, it's very much a tourist route with an area generation that is going over to Ibiza for entertainment and such. But on that route, we still have young and older generations that are going over to explore the really great parts of the island. Vice versa, we've got Hungary to Munich, which is very much a business route and a commuting route. But they also have a number of students that go to and from university. So focusing kind of a brand on a certain group of people, I think is quite naive in the aviation industry, because we have such a broad. And I've been really pleasantly surprised to speak to some of our passengers and see then using it as a commuter shuttle backwards and forwards, say Nice, pretty much regularly, to then families going on holiday. And I think having that balance of a brand that kind of speaks to everybody, and they can see the design and see what it kind of means if it's a really quick business commute that they can get on the aircraft quickly and get off the aircraft quickly, or with some of the things we give them, such as the baggage allowance, they can use as a holiday route as well. It's really really part of our kind of ethos of what we want to be able to give.
And this would probably be, correct me if I'm wrong, your philosophy, right? To effectively have an element of universal approach to whether it's business,
Exactly.
commercial,
and
vacation.
Taken one of our future marketing strategies. Yeah, it is truly a kind of universal approach to what we want to do. We want to cater for a number of people. Obviously, Malta is an island. You only get off it one or two ways, either by boat or by plane. And we need to make sure that people can use our service to do what they need to do, whether that's going on holiday, whether that's a spontaneous break to the Amalfi Coast, or whether that's business trips over to Nice.
Can I just touch upon the Amalfi Coast?
Yeah.
Because we were talking about it earlier on during our meet and greet, and you were telling me about also your personal involvement.
Yes.
Obviously, as a CEO of an airline, in terms of launching your routes, so on and so forth. How deep are you in terms of defining the value proposition, living the brand, also from a personal consumption point of view?
I think to sell something, you've got to believe in it, right? And it's really important to provide something that I would want as an individual, and I would want my friends and family to be able to do so. And that's from the service to the destinations. The Amalfi Coast was really interested. So we engaged with the airport very early on. It's a new airport. It's just been essentially runway's been extended, and it's now a commercial airport rather than a private one. They quickly sold it as Salerno, the Amalfi Coast, and it's a very clever branding or marketing ploy, because I didn't know where Salerno was, I knew where Sorrento was, I knew Naples,
but everyone knows where the
Amalfi Coast is, and actually that's what attracted us. And I think when you look at how powerful marketing is, they've attracted us, EasyJet, Ryanair, so some big players in the aviation industry because of the Amalfi Coast connection. I think if they just labelled it as Salerno, there may have been a reluctant to use that as a destination.
I think what you're speaking about is literally the end-to-end proposition.
Yeah.
Particularly because obviously airports do the marketing to airlines like yourselves.
Yeah.
So it's a B2B element.
You've got to, I think it's a whole industry way of doing something. And Mace was a really good example of that today, where everybody from the engineers to the marketeers to the operators. And if you can have that whole kind of concept to how you do something, it's just a lot stronger. And one area which doesn't support can make the whole project kind of lose momentum. So marketing is the powerful tool, and it's definitely a way of like I said, living the brand. Is you've got to and share that with everybody else.
We were talking earlier about when you crafted the brand, right? So we as Concept Stadium believe a lot that people speak to people. I keep repeating that brands are only the vehicles in between, but people ultimately speak to people.
Yeah.
Through customer touch points. How important is it, in your view, now that you've experienced yourself kind of crafting a brand from the very, very beginning, from conceptualization stage, the element of consistency in the aviation industry, so social media, websites, ticketing, customer messaging, customer care?
I think it's huge, and we are still developing that. And I think when you look at, as we talked about, so many cultures and language barriers and things, you need that very strong brand so everybody understands what they get with it. And you can look at some of the other operators around Europe, and you know that if you pick one of them, what you're going to get, and the service may not what you expect. If you go for a flag carrier, then therefore you expect something very different. We wanted to have a brand that was, we always talked about finding that middle ground, something that wasn't the low-cost airline, but wasn't going to compete with the kind of national carriers, but you knew what you get, and that is a great service on board the aircraft. That is a really personal approach. We operate smaller aircraft, which allows us to really be personal with our passengers. And I had a conversation earlier with our online check-in is still being developed. Obviously, we had to prioritize a few things, and he was saying that because he couldn't check online, he had to get to the airport 2 hours before, and then he got there and realized that he only needed 45 minutes to check in. And it's again, you're going, people are assuming the aviation industry is very much the same. And actually, we wanted to be different. So the brand is very much, if you use a universal air aircraft, this is what you get, and it's standard across our network, which has had its ups and downs. Obviously, cultural differences, people want different things, so we have to embrace that, but also try and explain to them that the brand is really something that should be embraced, not I can't use a different from each different route.
Any lessons learned in this kind of exploratory stage of the branding proposition?
It always takes longer than you think. No, I think it's you can always try and change it. You can always make it better. And I think as we bring new people in, from our marketing teams to our pilots to a lot of our younger cabin crew who have grown up with social media, they understand everything's about a picture, a TikTok, a Instagram post, whereas kind of my generation, it was that makes me sound old. Hopefully not that old.
I'm in your generation.
But our generation, that would sound better. If you like the advert between Coronation Street and EastEnders on the UK channel was the most expensive part of TV.
Like 8 o'clock news.
Exactly,
Yeah.
the 8 o'clock news in Malta. Nowadays, I don't think anybody watches live TV. It's all downloaded. So therefore, we've had to really change how we push our marketing, and it's a completely different concept to what it was probably 5-10 years ago. And actually, someone who has an iPhone nowadays or a smartphone can make a post which has more exposure than a lot of radio or TV ads, which I think is amazing. And it's how you embrace that.
How open are you to influencer marketing? Because obviously nowadays there's like you said, there's a massive shift from TV to social media, from traditional PR to corporate messaging. How open should an airline be for influencer marketing? The power of TikTok, the power of
I think
Instagram, Facebooks.
I'm learning because I think LinkedIn was probably the first social media platform I had, and I'm amazed by it. I think, like I said, the generation that can make these amazing videos in 10-20 minutes. We spend a lot of effort and time using influencers and from Malta, from all our network, and it's been a really, really good brand awareness program. And I think that was really exciting and
aspirational marketing, right? You're drawing experiences.
Exactly, and using we'll go back to Aviation Coast because we did that recently, but using so bringing some of the influencers from that region in Italy to Malta, and then taking some of the Maltese influencers to and it was essentially the old exchange swap that we used to do as kids,
from university to aviation.
Yeah, exactly. So using that concept, but it worked really well, and I think it doesn't just share awareness of us as a company and a brand. It shows awareness of the economy and the country. And if you look at the people we used from Italy had never been to Malta before, and we got to show them a really, really good experience that Malta has to offer. So not only are we selling the company, we're selling the country and our destination, which is equally as important. It goes back to what we're saying about the branding and making sure everybody works together, because we can have the best flight in the world at the cheapest prices, but if no one wants to go there, no one's going to buy it.
Yeah. Simon, I want to touch upon a bit of a serious subject. We discussed that a bit today as well in terms of safety, so on and so forth. So obviously the aviation industry brings with it a huge amount of responsibility. You're literally carrying people.
Yep.
Have you thought already about the PR element, the public relations element, the social media management in terms of your proactive approach and, God forbid, reactive approach?
Yeah, I think safety is the number one priority. And even though people don't want to hear about it, it's something that is it's always there. And
part of your product. It's an integral part of the product.
And it's almost that it should be accepted. And especially in Europe, and the regulators in Europe do a really, really good job at making sure everything's safe. So it is accepted in Europe. And I don't get on another aircraft and decide and wonder if it's safe, because we assume the standards.
You take it for granted.
Exactly. And you should do, because the amount of regulatory oversight is huge in Europe, which is really good. I think from a reactive point of view, obviously we have a lot of procedures in place if something does happen, and it's the extent from the worst case scenario, which we hope will never happen, and but we have a plan for that. But actually, it's more of the disruption planning, and that's something that we go back to social media and stuff where you can have a disgruntled customer who has 1 million followers, and then also because we've had to delay the aircraft for safety reasons, or we had an incident really recently where we had a bird strike, so we hit a bird and we had to do just to make sure the aircraft's safe.
You almost start afresh, right?
Exactly, before we release that aircraft, because I'm not going to put an aircraft in the air if I don't believe that it's checked correctly and stuff. But that had a significant delay to our passengers. The disgruntled passengers don't understand the amount of work that goes into ensuring the safety, because as we said, you've got to take it for granted. So individuals that have a massive following that don't understand the full story can have a detrimental effect to your brand. Do you counter that by saying it's all about safety, or do you just try and increase your brand awareness a little bit better and counter it? Luckily, I think there's a lot of people on social media, and we follow all the posts and things that understand that, and you almost see people defending you as a company because they know what's going on.
Almost like you're building an army of brand ambassadors,
it's
right?
Brilliant. So it's and obviously aviation is a very interesting industry. People follow aircraft all the time, so there's a lot of people out there that understand what's going on. But I think the power of social media now can never be understated, because rightly or wrongly, people have access to thousands, millions of followers, and people believe them. You only got to look at some of the social media in the US at the moment with the elections.
Oh yeah,
how that's going to affect probably the world.
In terms of, obviously, your asset base is your fleets, and that's almost the means to the end.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously, you have a particular fleet. In your instance, how careful are you that the brand image is almost reflecting the brick and mortar part of the business, which is the aircraft itself?
Yeah, I think we always have two assets. The aircraft is one, but the people are the most important. And actually, we ensure that the brand is reflected in our people from the day they go for they're recruited to developing through their training, and the ethos we have and what we're trying to portray. That's really important. I think go back to, I was very fortunate that we got to develop this airline pretty much from scratch. So therefore, the aircraft, we knew we wanted something that was in that middle ground and find a very big niche, but also sustainability and the future concept. So the turboprop we have is a more greener air core, but has a better fuel efficiency for the certain routes that we do. So opportunities to ensure that we as a company, the brand and what we believe in is spread across the whole thing that we do, and that goes from community spirit to engaging with our communities in our pilot scholarship that we just launched, and other supporting other kind of development of the youth organisation, to being open and honest and transparent. And I think there's a lot of companies out there that are not as transparent as they should be, and we're seeing some of that in the press now with different carriers in across Europe. So we really wanted to make sure that we could show our customers what we're doing, and we're trying to do things like customer question and answer sessions with some of our C-suite team, not because we think it's a kind of gimmick, but actually allows people to ask us questions, and it's really benefit to understand what people want and how they portray us, and we've just launched a kind of Q&A on next destinations that we want to go to.
Oh, cool! And
it's been very interesting to see what the Maltese people in our network kind of customers want, because some of the options that come up have completely thrown us, and that's the
best piece of knowledge for your marketeer.
Best marketing type we can use. So it's always a development of how we kind of grow based on what people want from us.
Fantastic. I like what you said, that you involved a lot of your people, from the crafting of the strategy, the crafting of the brand, the constant customer interaction and customer feedback. And it is really and truly linked to this element of people speaking to people. How will you future-proof the brand? So when you look at your business plan, at your marketing plan for the next 5 years, how will you future-proof the brand to remain relevant in today's world?
I think it's always going to be a challenge. Having the right people to support that is really important. Go back to what we said about having the ability, if something goes wrong, to protect the brand. We've seen everybody sees. If you limit safety or you don't provide a safe aircraft and something goes wrong, your brand is gone overnight. So you need to make sure that you have the right systems, processes in place that allows the core part of doing aviation, which is safety, to stay. Everything else on that, how we grow the brand, I think depends on where we go. And if we take a new culture, a new destination that has a really kind of unique type of marketing, whether that's a language, different language that we use. And when we started, we had a slight hiccup where we translated a word wrong into Bulgarian, which meant something very different to what we were trying to say. Luckily, it got spotted within a few hours after a few jokes. But it's those kind of things. So making sure that the brand grows with the company is really important. But keeping that core ethos that we hold so true to what we want to do. And it goes back to communication. And from my previous career, communication was key to everything. If you can communicate well, then no matter what you do, is going to get done. So continuing that, whether that's with our passengers, whether that's with our crews or our ground operations staff, or the wider industry. And I think that's something that people are just becoming more interlinked with. And we've talked about it today at the conference. It's how we're now calling people partners rather than
clients or suppliers.
Exactly. Yeah. And those little changing in perceptions of how we see people, I think, is going to continue this communication, which will allow the brand, not just the Universal Air brand, but the Malta brand, the Route brand, and everything we do grow, which is, I think, really exciting.
Simon, I must say I really enjoyed our conversation.
No, it's been brilliant.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. Your experiences in crafting something, from the ground up.
Yes,
it is. Excuse
the
pun.
It's no, it's true. It's true.
Excuse the pun, but I think something interesting that people always speak to people, whether it is at the start of the conversation or whether it's throughout the conversation.
Yeah.
I personally am really looking forward to be on one of your aircraft soon.
Look forward to having you.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thanks a million.
Catch you later. Thank you.